What's going on, everyone? Matic here, and in this week's video, in celebration of season 3 of Cobra Kai, we're going to take a look at what the real secret technique of Karate Kid 2 is. Because let's face it, what they show in the movie is... Yikes. Okay, so first thing that we kind of got to do is figure out what it looks like is happening in the film, the final fight scene. And so what it looks like is that the bad guy, Chosen, is throwing out a tire, punch, or grab, or something like that. And the counter to that is that Daniel-san, what it looks like, is in two different ways. Is he's either using the leading hand to do some kind of block or push or whatever to move the attack out of the way, and then the following hand is coming to counter, and then Chosen attacks with the other side, same thing, block, counter, block, counter, and block, counter. And that's actually a valid technique. Someone goes to throw something at you, you just come in, block, and counter it. But if you on the last hit of that sequence, it almost looks like, I really don't think it's this way, but it looks like that Daniel-san has got his hands grabbed together. Like he's just like double hitting it. And the leading arm is either blocking like the upper arm, the elbow, something like that, and he's just smashing Chosen as he comes back and forth. That's the more stupid version, if that's actually kind of what they were going with. If they're going more with a block counter, that one's more valid. Like, it's a very good technique to be able to figure out to block and attack at the same time. Like, the problem is that's not really the principle, the martial arts principle, that little drum is trying to symbolize. So what do I mean by that? So if we look at our little drum here, is in the clip you see like all the people, they're just twisting their drums back and forth. Now, the way that the film perceives it is that technically they're correct. The body of the drum is supposed to be the body of you. And the strings and the little beads or balls on the end of it is supposed to represent, in this case, your arms, but it also pertains to your legs as well. And by twisting, your body allows your arms or your limbs to go outward. The thing is that some people who understand this concept, a lot of traditional martial arts, you'll see them, they'll either be in some kind of line together, something like that, and they'll be doing standing in place punches, hands going back and forth. And what they're mainly practicing with this is a concept called push and pull. Basically, my punching hand is pushing, and this hand is pulling. Martial artists use all kinds of different analogies or metaphors on how you want to feel they're doing this. Like, you have two strings attached to a pulley at the end, and when you pull, the other hand goes out. They're roughly kind of all meaning the same, and that's what the drum symbolizes. It symbolizes the concept of one side coming back and the other side going forward. And you do this at the same time. So one of the hardest parts with this concept or principle is learning to apply it in every technique that you do. Whether it's stepping, punching, blocking, kicking, throwing, whatever it is. Now, the easiest way to kind of visualize this push and pull principle is to think of doors. And there's two specific type of doors. Either a revolving door, that it just sits on a center axis, kind of like this drum. And as people walk through it, it spins. Typically, unless you do not want to be a nice person and want to make a lot of people mad, it tends to go in the same direction all the time. So it never goes back and forth, but it can. But so in a revolving door, one side moves, the other side moves, and it moves evenly. The other type of door that we kind of want to think of is a normal door that you open and close. One side stays hinged, and the other side pretty much does all the movement. In both types of doors, there is a push and pull or back and forth type of movement. In a regular door, it's not as much, it's as close to a good analogy we can get, even though the center axis is a little different for when it swings. But if you think of a door, when you go to punch or move or do anything else, you can kind of create a back and forth movement. So, say we go to do a jab. Most people concentrate on the punching hand because they think they just want to take their fist and smash it to the person. So they'll mainly only concentrate of pushing this forward, pushing that forward. They have no pull. So if we think that our body is either a revolving door or that drum, our body on our center axis, which is basically like our spine, if you want to use that, is, so I'm going to spin on my spine. So now I'm like a revolving door. And if I'm just staying in place, my fist goes out, my punching fist, my push goes out, my opposite shoulder is coming back, okay? And the same thing applies when I punch with my other hand. If this hand pushes, this shoulder is pulling, is pulling, is pulling. And they stay together. And you generally want to make sure that your hips and your shoulders stay together. That way you have a good structure. And you wind up hitting with your body and not so much your muscles. So you want to hit with your body and structure. So that's if we're just using a revolving door, which means you're not really moving forward or backwards. You're just staying in place. Now, if we go to use the normal open and close door, then I can kind of put my back shoulder, so instead of now turning on my central axis, I'm now going to concentrate on turning on the back part of my body. So I still have my pull, it's just not going way on back here, but my pull is now here. And my push now goes forward. So a revolving door, I just stay in place. But an open and closed door, this stays in place. And my body goes forward, or I get some more distance into my attack without having to move my feet. Same thing applies to punch with the backhand. If I just use my central axis, I stay about here. I'm hitting the bag and I'm going till I get resistance. That's just on how far I am. But if I turn at this hip, using this side of my body to go back, this side to go forward, now I can go deeper. Now, that's generally on how far most people get. Is they understand that their body turns like that drum, and it winds up letting their limbs go out. Then you eventually get to the part, after some thinking, and some investigation and research, we start turning like either a revolving door or an opening door. So the concept of a push and pull is very, very good in martial arts. It becomes really handy if you're doing any grappling arts, because if you've done any grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whatever it is, where you have to grab somebody, the easiest way to gain control over them is to push them, some part of their body, and to pull them. And if you mostly just do a push and pull, sometimes introducing another element, you can throw or move just about anybody you want as long as you understand that principle. So unless you have a huge size difference, it's very hard to just grab someone and pull them and knock them off balance. Same thing, it's very hard to grab someone and push them off balance. But if you do both, push and pull, things become much, much easier. Okay, so that is the Okinawan version. Also, if you're a very good grappler or any other art or discipline that uses throwing techniques, you fully realize or understand this push and pull concept that's very effective. If you have problems throwing, use a push and pull, usually fixes most of your problems. If you guys want me to do more of these, secret techniques from other films or shows or anything like that, that'd be really awesome. It's really amazing on how much stuff is in movies that's not explained. And there's several movies that have a whole lot of these concepts in them, and some film that has none of it. It's just dumb. It's fun dumb, though. There's also, again, like I said, this is kind of like the Okinawan version. There's also a Chinese-Japanese version, which I'm more familiar with the Japanese version. If you guys want me to go over that, comment below, let me know if you really want to know that. Same thing, if you have any movie ideas for me to look at, put them down. And for a sneak peek on what the Japanese version, it's this. You've probably heard of it before, but there's a little bit more than just being a ball. Okay? I'm Matic, and I'll see you guys next time. Yo!